Would you describe the themes of this story as contemporary and why?
Well, I think we saw right from the very beginning, we went directly to the Hans Christian Andersen tale, and we saw a very modern story, a very contemporary story about a young girl who feels displaced, doesn't feel like she belongs, and she goes on an epic journey, really, of self-discovery to break down the barriers and walls between herself and the other, which in this case is the human world. And I think what's beautiful about that is that, I think we can all relate. Don't you feel that way, John?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I instantly, associated with this outsider theme. I mean, that to me was very, very important.
No question.
And then you saw that border thing as the thing that caught you.
I mean, when we were making this, it was, we feel the world become more divided and more divisive in a way. And it was this wonderful antidote the entire time about not being afraid of what's on the other side of the border or other side of the wall, not being afraid of someone different than you. And in this wonderful reminder that we're really all one.
And learning how to be tolerant and listen to the other so we can somewhat understand, their plights.
Exactly.
It's very important to us to find, as people who live in this world and are contemporary, we had to find a way in. And that's the most important thing for us, no matter what film.
Exactly. How does it relate to an actual audience today? And that's how we saw it.
And us in our world today.
Exactly.
So that's...
Thank you, guys. The next one is, what were the biggest challenges with filming a musical that takes place predominantly underwater?
Well, this is the most challenging film I know we've ever done. I mean, I don't think we could have done this film if we hadn't done all the movies up to this point. Because, listen, when they said you're going to do an underwater musical, we thought, well, how do we do that? How do you do that? How do you begin? Because everything is, listen, we were in a blue screen stage. There were literally no sets, pieces and things like that, and a few props that were used, but everything had to be added digitally. But we had this incredible group of people, and we prepped like crazy. We spent years prepping for this film. We started with storyboards. We moved directly into animatics and then pre-visualization, so we could almost create like a little mini movie where we would have where the actor would be in space, in the water, and how we would have the camera moving. And then that was translated to our camera team and also our of course our stunt team, so they would know where to move everyone. So it was daunting.
And we all had to learn. We all had to teach ourselves and collaborate and to try to find, and we'd have these methodology meetings. We kept getting together in groups trying to figure out
how do we do it.
But I can say I have two words that got us through, and it's Rob Marshall.
Oh, John.
I mean, no, seriously. Without that patience, I mean, I always thought I was patient, but no. But that patience and that kind of being able to feed, it has to feed through one voice in the end of the day, and it can't look technical, as we knew. We could never. So it is such a balancing act between all these different factions, and without that vision, and thank God you're some musical though, because it not only in terms of that it is a musical, but the way that the stunt people had to move and flow, and the actors, the whole thing was a musical exercise.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, John. I mean, it was definitely all had to be choreographed in advance. That was the most important thing. Otherwise, we wouldn't know how to even begin. Yeah.
So the next one is, you have said that Under the Sea was the most complex scene to film. Why?
Well, Under the Sea was the most complicated production number we've ever done, because there's one live actor and everything else is digital created. And so we once again, we thought, how do we begin? And I remember thinking about Fantasia. I thought of Walt Disney, and I remembered when he did Fantasia, the Nutcracker Suite sequence, he used the Ballet Russe as a template, their bodies, to help him create the dancing flowers or the snowflakes or the mushrooms or whatever. And so I thought we should work with a company. And so we brought the Alvin Ailey Company over to London to work with them to create this musical number on. And we asked them to actually replicate these different sea creatures and how they moved, and so that our CGI artists would have a chance to have a body to work from and to mold from. And it was insanity in a way, but I will say, at the end of the day, having that company, that beautiful company, there with us, and being able to work, with actual dancers and use them was really the key. I think that was the key to getting into this and figuring it out.
They did enliven the whole process.
Yeah.
When they arrived, it was a real injection of spirit and just what we wanted to create.
You have to start with something you can actually control. So we thought you have to at least start with something that's tangible, like a dancer. And because we're both choreographers and dancers ourselves, back in the day, we really needed to physicalize it and understand how we were going to do it. And so then we worked with that plus pre-visualization plus storyboards and all of that to mold this massive production number.
And they're all real fish. All the fish in the movie
they're all real sea creatures.
Yeah,
and when we were debating and deciding which ones to use, we looked for ones that lent themselves to dance. Like those beautiful feather starfish that just look like they almost
costume.
They almost look like they're in a carnival, kind of thing, and or even like just John, like just the sea turtles, or
or the slugs,
or the little the limpets. Yeah, they had
yeah.
these little hats on. That we thought, so we were looking for actual creatures that we thought we could actually choreograph on and give us a sort of a whole array of everything that's under the sea.
Well, thank you very much. Our last one is, can you talk about how some of the characters have been expanded and given back as stories, and why that is so important for you both?
Well, we started with this amazingly beloved animated film that's has incredible bones, but we realized this needed to be reimagined as a live action film, and we knew one of the major things we had to do was take the character of Eric and flesh that character out and understand his trajectory, his story, his journey. What does he want? So we actually created an entire story for him. He has a mother. There's a similar feeling of being displaced, that his parents doesn't understand him. So that these two kindred spirits, Ariel and Prince Eric, find each other. That's a big part of it, and that was definitely one of the big elements of starting to flesh out the story
in a Romeo and Juliet kind of way.
Exactly, Romeo and Juliet really helped us, didn't it, John?
It did.
It really did. It did, and because
we wanted her to fall in love with him, not just because he was a beautiful man,
right?
But for what he represented and the dilemmas he was going through.
Exactly.
And she hears his passion before she sees him on the boat. It was very important.
She has more substance than that. She's looking for something that she can connect to in the world. And she finds someone who's compassionate and kind and thoughtful and adventurous like her, and feels kind of trapped in their world like she does. So it really was, that became sort of the center, and we sort of worked from that. But anytime you take a piece and move it into a different genre, so now we're in a live action world, it has to be more real, it has to be more fully realized.
And since the story of the father and daughter, Triton and Ariel, was so important to the story, we wanted to create a parallel story between Eric and his mother,
exactly,
who is the queen, and the prime minister. We made Grimsby a more
elevated,
a more serious character.
Yeah,
someone who figures into this royal family.
I mean, there are many things that work in the animated film that just would never work in a live action piece. But that's why they live separately and together. They're sort of like this wonderful sort of pair.
Companion pieces.
Companion
Yes.
pieces, exactly.